Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Well, good morning. Today, Lieutenant Governor Reynolds and I have the opportunity to introduce and the rest of Iowa to this quality pre-apprenticeship model set to be launched in 4 pilot school districts this fall. With us to share this story, we have Dr. Jeff Weld, Executive Director of the Governor's STEM Advisory Council, Chris Byam, who is the principal at Boone High School, and Jake Gorley, a junior at Boone High School. These speakers will tell you how the schools work as a STEM Best Partner, which stands for Business Engaging Students and Teachers, will help fuel opportunities for students like Jake in a quality pre-apprenticeship this fall. You might remember last fall, Iowa received $1.8 million grant from the U.S. Department of Labor, $200,000 of which is going to start 4 new quality pre-apprenticeship programs that Dr. Weld is going to discuss in a minute. With the Apprenticeship USA grant, we promise to substantially increase the number of registered apprenticeships in Iowa by April of 2018. More registered apprenticeship programs mean that more high-skilled employees for Iowa employers, which will lead to a more diverse and talented workforce in our state. And one of the many ways we can plan to produce more talent is through a quality pre-apprenticeship program for our state that will start awareness of these opportunities at a younger age for Iowa high school students. Lieutenant Governor Reynolds co-chairs the STEM Council alongside Kemin Industries President and CEO, Dr. Chris Nelson. I will turn the podium over to Lieutenant Governor Reynolds now to talk about how a quality pre-apprenticeship aligns with the STEM Council's mission and other state initiatives.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad. And, receiving the Apprenticeship USA State Expansion Grant is a big driver in allowing us to make this a priority for Iowa. So not only did we earn substantial financial investment to support the effort that we had in place, but we've also, and I think this is probably more powerful, we've witnessed the power of Iowa State's organizations really coming together and sharing the resources that they have to produce a well thought out plan. So there's a lot of thanks to go around, a lot of collaboration, and we want to certainly highlight the U.S. Department of Labor, Office of Apprenticeship, Iowa Workforce Development, Iowa Economic Development Authority, the Iowa Department of Corrections, the Iowa Department of Education, ABI, and of course the STEM Council. We know with all of that collaboration and coordination, we have a robust roadmap that will that will help us to reach our goal of doubling registered apprenticeship programs, and that we can really execute the good work that we already see going on across the state. By this program also will go a long way in helping us align state organizations, and is a crucial piece of the Future Ready Iowa initiative with the goal of having 70% of Iowans in the workforce have either education or training beyond high school by the year 2025. Pre-apprenticeships leading to more registered apprenticeships is one key strategy for helping us achieve that goal. And anytime that we can talk to students earlier rather than later about the career opportunities that exist, and especially those career opportunities that exist in Iowa, that's a good day, and that helps us move the ball forward. The pre-apprenticeship model it's doing just that. It's helping schools and businesses in communities all across the state of Iowa build those strong partnerships. It's as you know, it's certainly an honor for me to co-chair the STEM Council, where our mission from day one has been to help facilitate more of these school to business partnerships in Iowa. And the STEM Best program that the governor highlighted is certainly one of those programs that's helping us do that, as well as the STEM teacher externship programs. And that puts the educator in business and industry and helps them see what the workforce looks like today. So it only makes sense that the STEM Council would take on this charge of pre-apprenticeships. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And I'm really excited to have Dr. Jeff Weld, who's the executive Executive Director of the Governor's STEM Advisory Council, with us today. And he is going to share with us the pre-apprenticeship model, what that looks like, and what the 4 school districts that will pilot this program this fall, what those programs look like, because they vary from school district to school district. And I just want to point out that we have a lot of those partners that are with us today at the press conference. So with that, Jeff.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everybody. Iowa's STEM movement, in fact, the nation's STEM movement, is really about reconnecting education systems to the communities and the employers that they serve. And as the Governor and Lieutenant Governor mentioned, our STEM Best program is a signature way that we're connecting schools with the business sector. 18 beautiful partnerships have emerged across our state. They're scattered across the state, and they're actually briefly touched upon on the document over at the countertop there. They all have very unique fingerprints, but there's some commonalities. They base educational programming and content in the classroom on needs of the community and projects. I'll just give you 2 quick examples. North Cedar Elementary in my neighborhood at Cedar Falls has partnered with a Sidecar Coffee Company to help the kids of North Cedar Elementary learn how to grow and process and produce coffee beans and coffees for marketing, sales, and hopefully a modest profit there at North Cedar Elementary through their own coffee shop. West Delaware High School is partnering with the local bank, hospital, a variety of manufacturers to custom build long-term project experiences for students based on students' individual tastes and needs of the workplace. There's 16 other models just like them across the state, and hopefully soon there'll be more. And so when Iowa Workforce Development approached STEM about piloting high-quality pre-apprenticeships, we turned immediately to our STEM Best partners and launched a small competition, ultimately arriving on 4 that'll be piloting and pioneering high-quality pre-apprenticeships. Those 4 are Muscatine High School, Waukee Apex, and Boone High School. And I was so delighted that Boone High School's principal, Chris Byam, could take a few minutes out of his no doubt busy day to come down and share with you his vision for what pre-apprenticeships are going to look like at Boone High School. Mr. Byam.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Governor, Lieutenant Governor. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and talk about the pre-apprenticeship program. But I kind of wanted to give you kind of a roadmap of what we've done at Boone High School. We've had a great opportunity of being a STEM partner from the beginning of the STEM Advisory Council, where we started with about 45 course requests all the way up to 400 course requests this year in STEM classes. Our ag classes have taken a huge increase because of the inquiry-based learning that's going on. And so the opportunity came that I also sit with the NGA Policy Academy for Work-Based Learning, and really admired the work that was going on in work-based learning and appreciated what was going to happen there. There is a strength in the learning that goes on when you're looking at work-based learning or you're looking at inquiry-based learning. And so as we started devising our Iowa Best application, we felt that it was a really good comprehensive plan to meet all of the needs of our students. Our goal at Boone High School is to make sure that our students are post-secondary ready, whether that's in a career, whether it's in military, whether it's at a college. Our students have choices when they leave Boone High School, and we want to make sure that they're prepared for that. We feel that the pre-apprenticeship program with our partners, Kruk has been a great partner with us from Boone. Fairway has been a great partner, and also our Chamber of Commerce in devising a pre-apprenticeship program that will allow students like Jake to be successful when they leave high school. Jake's story is a little bit different than your average student. He doesn't necessarily want to go into college. So what can we do to prepare him to go into the workforce to be successful? And so this pre-apprenticeship program will actually take off a year of time in the apprenticeship program. So rather than a 4-year program, it would actually be a 3-year program, because we're giving that information and giving that foundational work in high school prior to him graduating. And so we're really excited for this opportunity. And we feel like this is the wave of the future, is really looking at work-based learning and how we can partner with all of our businesses. And it's a global market, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Boone County, but it can be anywhere around the world, anywhere in the state. and we're looking forward to those partnerships and continuing to develop that. I'd like to introduce Jake Gorley. He's a junior at Boone High School.
Thank you. Doing this class would be a great honor because I would get a year ahead in schooling. So when I went out to the workforce, I'd be easier employment and I'd know what I was doing. And it would like help if I was to go somewhere like Kruk or some other place with like plumbing or carpentry. It'd be a big help at getting like out on my feet and not like having to worry about not getting employed. It'd be like way better to like get out there and know what I was doing. Governor.
Okay.
Then like I think it's ABC schooling, so it'd be like it's like a 4-year class where you go out and they teach you like what the things would be for like trades like carpentry, plumbing, things like that, where you work with your hands. I was looking to do plumbing, like what my dad does.
And a good job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Governor.
Yeah, Kruk is a great company in Boone that has a long history and is very much involved in the plumbing and in the building trades business. So are there further questions on this subject?
Jake, your last name is Gourley. And sir, what's your last name?
Byam, B-Y-A-M.
Okay, other questions? Yes.
Sir, what's the long game here? It's good that we're emphasizing these partnerships with these different schools, but how do you ensure that every school has this opportunity?
Well, as you know, I signed an executive order back in 2011. At that time, Iowa was way down when it comes to STEM education. We have become a real leader. And the lieutenant governor has co-chaired this from the beginning. Dr. Chris Nelson is the co-chair. Jeff has been involved in it even before my executive order. And the result is that we have business, education at all levels working together. And we're seeing a real demand, especially in this area of apprenticeships. We've tripled Iowa's funding for apprenticeships. We've gotten some federal money also to help. And we see the STEM Best program as a great opportunity to get kids started earlier in high school that have an interest in going into these building and construction trades and other fields that are good paying and where they're not going to have to incur a lot of college debt. So we see this as a very positive thing. This is where we see a lot of the good jobs of the future coming. We know there's a lot of demand. And frankly, we have jobs that are not being filled today because they can't find people with the right skills in these areas.
Honestly, what this has done is just help raise awareness all across the state of Iowa. So the goal, the original goal, and remains the goal of the Governor's STEM Advisory Council, is to make sure that no matter where a student lives in this state, they have access to high quality scale-up programs or programs like the STEM Best initiative. We're in almost every single school district already, but we want to make that systemic so it's not a one and done, that we're touching them in every single grade. We want to make sure that we continue to drive the partnership, and that's what STEM is doing. It's making connections between business and industry and educators who were operating in silos, and now they're teaming up and they're partnering. The other thing that it's doing is it's building relationships with our young people and our businesses, so they see the great things that are happening in their community. They're building the relationships and they're realizing I can have a great job right here in the state of Iowa, right in the community that I live in. And with educators and with principals and with students connecting to this, it's providing great opportunities for them. These are great jobs. They're great jobs all over the state of Iowa. And it's really about building those partnerships, those connections, and those relationships.
Subject.
So how does, I'm a parent of a child in one of these four school districts, and I think perhaps my child may not be academic with the science realm. What do they get, how they get in touch with this or?
Well, I think first of all, they need to bring it to the attention, find out what is available at their local school district. And if it's not available, ask why, and ask their district to look at going into this and talk about, as Jeff mentioned, we have a number of school districts that have added these courses in recent years. We have some great partnerships between the community colleges and the local schools. And Lieutenant Governor and I have visited some of those around the state where we see, for instance, I can think of Monticello, Iowa, where you have 6 small school districts have partnered with Indian Hills, but it would be Kirkwood over there. And they're offering these courses while the kids are still in high school. And we're seeing more and more of that develop all across the state. And the collaboration between the business community, the K through 12 and community colleges and the universities is really growing. And that's a very positive thing.
You know, businesses too are opening up their facilities and not only encouraging the teachers to come in, but the students to come in and the parents and the counselors so that they can see really how automated and technical the industries are today, the trades, and how what a great opportunity is for a quality career for their students. So again, as we build those connections, we're bringing the parents in, the counselors, the educators, the students, and the sooner that we do that, it really helps students find where they have a passion and what they're good at, and again, ultimately a great job. And that's really what this is. It's about connecting Iowans to great jobs in Iowa.
Other questions?
Has Stephen Lee called you to talk about job at Auburn?
No, he hasn't. I would say that Stephen Leith, I think, has done a great job at Iowa State University. Under his leadership, Iowa State University has grown, especially in fields like agriculture and engineering. Also, they've been very involved in biotechnology and the biochemical bill. I actually signed up there on the campus. He's helped dramatically increase the endowment as well as increase the enrollment. So he's been a good university president. Frankly, I hope he stays at Iowa State University because I'm appreciative of what he's done. We're seeing significant expansion of the research park that we started back in my first term as governor, and it's growing dramatically under his leadership.
Introduce legislation that would cap tax credit and get rid of refundability, and that would really affect some credits like the research activity tax credit. Do you think that's a good idea?
I'm a strong supporter of the research and development tax credit because it's brought some of the best paying jobs to the state of Iowa. Companies like Rockwell Collins, which hires a lot of these engineers that graduate from Iowa State and the University of Iowa, Pioneer DuPont, and we can go down through the list of significant good jobs that have been created. We're always willing to look at things that can be done in terms of making sure that what we're doing is appropriate. But the research and development tax credit in particular has been very successful. I think that Debbie Durham will tell you that's been one of the great items when it comes to attracting quality jobs to the state of Iowa. So we're always willing to look at how we can adjust or change things. But I would point out the research and development tax credit has been there long before I became governor, a tool that we have seen used effectively by a number of companies that have attracted good paying jobs. Many of these research jobs pay over $100,000 a year.
Some of these companies are paying any taxes, and then they're getting a check on top of that. What sense is that?
Well, one of the things that we might want to consider is like we've done with losses that farmers have, and that is permit carryover. Instead of giving them a check, actually let them carry that forward so that if in a future year, they can use that as a credit against tax. So that's something that the legislature might want to look at, but we don't want to lose our competitive edge when it comes to attracting really good quality jobs, whether it's in Cedar Rapids or elsewhere throughout the state.
Speaking of good quality jobs, we've heard the reports by the Department of Tourism that some people are saying they aren't going to come to Iowa because of the things that Steve King is saying, that he's casting a negative light on the state. What about that? And are you going to, is Lieutenant Governor Reynolds going to endorse him in the future? Are you going to campaign with him? Should he be appearing on the stage? Are you folks going to appear on the stage with him many times? Gave him campaign help? Should that continue?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm a strong supporter of tourism in Iowa, and I think we need to continue to work together in a very positive way to bring tourists and jobs to the state. Last year, we hosted the National Governor's annual summer meeting here. It was a great success, and they got a chance to see, um, Iowa. Also, I just recently participated in celebrating the Chinese New Year down in Muscatine, as well as here at Central Campus. And we have been able to be very successful in that. And I don't think the words of one person, even somebody that's a congressman, should deter anybody from coming to Iowa and seeing the friendliness and hospitality and also just the opportunities that are here, and the fact that it's a relatively low cost place to have fun.
Well, I concur completely. And we talk about it every single day, whether I'm traveling the state of Iowa or traveling the world. We talk about why Iowa is a great place to live, work, and raise your family. And I tell you, when we get people here and they experience it, they stay. And so we're going to continue to look for ways that we can market why this is a great place to live, why this is a great place to raise a family. And we're going to continue to work on legislation that builds a great quality of life for Iowans. So that's where I'm going to focus. I'm going to talk about our story and the great things that we have happening, and really what I see as a tremendous amount of opportunities to continue building on what we've done.
So are you going to seek his support in future campaigns? Are you folks going to be campaigning? Are you going to be helping Steve?
First of all, we don't refuse support from people. I'm honored and proud to have been selected 6 times by the people of Iowa to be governor of this state. And I've gotten support from a very diverse group of people and carried as all 90, well, not all 99 counties, 98, I guess, 98 and 99.
Pretty darn close.
But the point is, it's important to work with everybody. And we won't always agree on things, but it's important that we work together. And obviously, I'm a team player. I work very hard to help elect our Republican team up and down the ticket, to the Congress, to the U.S. Senate, to the legislature, and I will continue to work with them. But I also work with the Democrats as well. Most of the time I've been governor, Democrats have either controlled both houses or one of the 2 houses, and we've been able to work together to accomplish a lot of good things for the people of Iowa. Well, this time they're not in the majority, and consequently, obviously, you tend to work with the party that's in the majority to get things accomplished. But there were 10 years when they were in the majority in both houses, and I worked very closely with them. I have to. The only way you get your program approved is to get the support of the majority. But when, and I have made it clear that I will meet with every member of the legislature, regardless of which house they're in, regardless of which party they're in. And my history and the way I've operated has always been that the person that might be your biggest adversary on one issue may be your best ally on the next. So I don't believe in burning bridges. I believe in working together, and that's why I think we've been so successful.
Well, and I think the topic that we're talking about today is a great example of how 2 parties can come together for the betterment of our students and young people. And I am so grateful to this legislature for the appropriation that they put in place for this STEM initiative, and that's allowed us to really make our case to the private sector and apply for grants so that we can really expand the outreach that we're trying to with young people across the state.
Governor, the revenue estimating conference, so they lowered the projections for this current
Right.
fiscal year and next year. I know that your office and some other Republican leaders have said that we tap into cash reserves, we're going to pay that back quickly.
Within the biennium is what I've recommended over the next 2 years.
Then I just want to make sure it's clear whether, again, for FY18, they had, I think it was like 191 or something, that they lowered the $1 million projection. Does that mean we're actually facing a budget shortfall for the upcoming fiscal year that's more in the $300 million range?
No. Recognize that the budget I submitted is a biennial budget. And if you look at the end of 2019, you have a substantial balance. So what we're saying is that we would pay this back over a 2-year period. I think that's the responsible thing to do. under the circumstances. Remember, we've gone through a difficult time. The first few years that we were back as governor, 2011, 12, and 13, were good years for agriculture. And we did well. And we restored all the money in the cash reserve and economic emergency account that had been taken by the previous administration. And we put the state in a strong financial position. Then along came the EPA and didn't maintain the robust renewable fuel standard and drove the price of corn below the cost of production. And we've seen farm income and farmland values drop every year since. And this past year, 2016, was really a tough year because we had corn, soybeans, pork, beef, and eggs all below the cost of production. And that's what caused the Revenue Estimating Council to have reduced their revenue estimates as much as they have. I'm encouraged by the fact that livestock prices have improved somewhat, and the RFS has been restored, and the new administration has promised they're going to keep the RFS on track and continue to increase the amount of our fuel that comes from renewables. So these are encouraging signs, but for the short term, I think in this fiscal year, it makes sense, since we've already made substantial reductions, to use $131 million from the cash reserve and then pay that back over fiscal year 2018 and 19.
Richard, Senator McCoy later today will outline plans to reissue his call for lawmakers to follow up on that lead and laying down some allegations. He's complaining that government oversight committee. First of all, what is the executive branch to follow up on that? Do you think legislators have?
Well, first of all, I think it's terrible to play politics with the tragic death of a teenage girl. This now is in the hands of the Polk County Attorney's Office. And the last thing we ought to do is have the politicians screw this up and not cause justice to be done for this tragic incident. Was involved with the group that spent all of the last year with holding hearings and investigating the executive branch of government. And you know what happened? 6 Democrat senators lost. No Republicans lost. We don't need this kind of politics being played just to gain attention over a terrible tragedy that occurred. I think it's appropriate that we not interfere with the work that's going on by the Polk County Attorney's Office to bring justice to those that were responsible for the tragic death of this 16-year-old girl.
Joyce?
Governor, back on the cash reserve fund, as I understand it, keep money out in Tyler Creek Economic Emergency account, don't have to pay it back.
No.
Why isn't this an economic emergency?
Well, it's not an economic emergency because the state of Iowa has 3.3% unemployment, significant economic success, but we have been hurt because of depressed farm prices. And 2016 was a bad year, and those tax returns are now coming in well below expectations. But the farm crisis period, it is not the time when we had a national recession. It is a time that farm income has been hurt, but because we have the cash reserve, we're in a position to be able to use some of our savings account to meet the short-term obligations and then pay it back over the next biennium. I think that's the responsible thing to do, and I'm very hopeful the legislature will do this. We don't want to do like my predecessor did, that is panic and do a 10% across the board, cause all kinds of disruptions. And we believe that this is a much more prudent and responsible way to handle the financial circumstances that exist today.
Two more right in the Margaret. The Republicans, budget makers say there's only $6 million in new money for FY18, and it sounds like the payback. How do you convince them to spread that out and not turn the 18 budget into a panic situation?
Well, I have submitted a budget that does that. I submitted it on the second day of the session. So I encourage you to go back and look at that biennial budget that I recommended. Well,
You're saying when we revise it, there's 6 million in new money.
well, no, we're looking at both years and we're looking at,
We're
well,
looking at 18 and saying.
well, that's why I'm saying it's time that they look at both years. I have recommended consistently that we do a biennial budget so we have long-term planning and so we don't have disruptions. And I hope that the legislature will take to heart the recommendations that we made and our willingness to work with them, to work through this short-term financial problem that we have in this fiscal year, and to make sure that we're positioned for the future, for economic growth, good jobs, and grow this state's economy.
I just, Governor, want to go back to the discussion over how we plan that investigation. I just want to make sure it's clear to me. So down the road, let's say, investigators are looking into this case, they come out with, this is the situation of what occurred. Does the legislature then have a role in potentially enacting policy if there is wrongdoing or something that the department should have done differently?
Well, first of all, let's not do any harm to the county attorney's effort to bring justice to those people that were responsible. Let's wait until that is accomplished. The Department of Human Services has already done a review. They've already dismissed a number of people and taken other actions. I believe it's appropriate that they do so. I would also point out, Mr. McCoy is the one that helped kill the bill that would have made this stuff public. In 2013, the House passed a bill that would have made these actions by people working for state government, or for that matter, for counties and cities, that are irresponsible and damage people or violate their rights. It would have made that information public once there's a final disposition of it.
So was the legislature wrong to investigate CTEC before there was prosecution of those involved and investigate the Shelby Lewis situation happened during Governor Bill's second?
Well, first of all,
Before the prosecution?
I think you got to look at each of these cases individually on their merits under the circumstances. I'm telling you right now, there is a criminal case that has been filed that involves murder of a 16-year-old girl, and a significant criminal case is going to go forward. I don't want to see politics interfere with bringing justice to bear. I also believe that the legislation that was passed as part of the collective bargaining reform that makes these things public will make it possible for us to know and for the public to know this information in the future. Unfortunately, Senate Democrats killed that bill in 2013, and consequently, it is not public, and the new law is not retroactive. It's prospective. It goes forward. But in the future, we can avoid these kind of things happening because of what was passed as part of the collective bargaining reforms.
Thank you, Governor. Chris and Jake